There is something that can destroy any game's fanbase. Now listening to the player's feedback. A really nice example of this is Sonic Origins, a collection that was completely massacred due to being super unpolished but with tons of fan suggestions that were never listened to. So I decided to listen to what you suggested and implement it, and oh boy, my mind is about to change. To begin with, there are these 3 simple suggestions suggested by the suggestions of this guy. There are these 2 camera related suggestions that I definitely didn't forget, right? And the third one really caught my attention. If you don't know, on the last devlog, I made it so the player couldn't stop moving, with the objective of trying to make the game feel unique. But the guy kind of suggested that this was making the game feel hard for beginners and boring for more experienced players, as beginners probably wouldn't be able to follow the speed and the experienced would think the game is too slow. To fix this, I re-added the deceleration and the game's old running system. My intention now is to make the levels don't focus on the running, but yes on the platforming. That is, you can beat the game without running, just like how Sonic 1 didn't have the spin dash until the later remasters. After following this, the game felt boring, again. But little did I know the next piece of feedback would completely change my mind. The next idea was suggested by Yusufia, who suggested that I add a sliding mechanic. When I think about sliding, especially in the context of my game, I imagine that it would be an attack. An attack is a special ability of my game that makes the character invincible for some seconds while causing damage to the enemies. The problem is, explained in simple terms, that my code was kind of bad to make so I could add a new attack. So that's when I remembered my late Discord chats and thought, oh boy, I was completely wrong about that. In resume, I'll have to rework the player code to add inheritance and node-based state machines. It will make the code much more easier to understand, to make the game, so that's it. And the problem is I criticized this a lot on Discord, so that's it. Going back to the sliding, I was able to add it, but with an interesting catch. Sliding will boost your speed, but jumping will make you exit the attack. But until you hit the ground, you'll maintain the speed boost of the slide. And wow, it's made the game much more satisfactory and a bit challenging. It can definitely become a speedrunning game if I want to. Take note that this sliding sprite is not definitive, it's the same air dash sprite. But talking about sprites, let's go to the last piece of feedback. Feedback I have always gotten is that the game's art felt inconsistent, especially the parallax, but which was already redone in the consistent art canvas. So what's the new problem? Well, the bosses. The first boss of this game is scaled 4 times in the editor, and this isn't cool, so that's why I decided to make it the next art to be rescaled, but for that I wanted to get the art style right because I never satisfied with my art style. So I started watching some pixel art tutorials and reading some art stuff, and that's when I realized that one of the main problems with my art style is the unsmooth animation. To begin with, I created a copy of the Pharaoh C sprite sheet and started messing around with the animation, removing the transition frames between animations and trying to fit something on 10. That's when I realized that, to achieve a smoother transition, I could use squash and stretch, and wow, I was completely right. Look at this silly dude swinging his arms. The problem is, the 4th week of the month has come, and that means I need to stop everything I'm doing to edit a new video. So while you wait for the next devlog, which will be linked here, why not check how I was able to make a better level design for my game. Just take into consideration that it's an older video compared to the style of this one. Like and subscribe.